I am a 25-year-old woman willing to avoid one of my friends, a 29-year-old man, to ease my boyfriend's insecurity. But I won't pretend I think he's right and that this isn't a bit controlling. How do we end this fight? Context. I am a 25-year-old female in a long-distance relationship. We have been together for approximately 2 years, and we have not encountered many issues. We lead relatively different lives. I reside in a city with a remote job and have numerous friends surrounding me, while he, a 24-year-old male, is in the military and has mostly stopped drinking. We value our differences, so this has not caused any conflict until recently. I'm also part of a friend group with a fairly equal mix of men and women. The guys are decent people, some are straight, and some are gay without any sexual tension among anyone, and I have been friends with all of them since before I started dating my boyfriend. It is completely normal and unremarkable for any of us to hang out one-on-one. Our first significant disagreement occurred almost a year ago concerning my use of marijuana. I ultimately consented to quit because it bothered him so much. As I grow older, sometimes it caused me to feel a bit too much derealization, and I have had a few unpleasant experiences with psychedelic mushrooms and edibles over the past few years, so it felt like the right decision for me at that time as well. Fast forward to a few months ago, I brought my boyfriend to the wedding of one of my high school friends, a 25-year-old male. This friend is a guy, and we have known each other for many years, during various stages of our lives, including times when we were both single, both in relationships, and one of us in a relationship while the other was not. There has never been any awkwardness or romantic connection between us, and I regard him as a genuine friend and wonderful person. I was really looking forward to him meeting my boyfriend and seeing him marry the love of his life. Naturally, it turned into a long night filled with drinking, and regrettably, 2 of my friend's family members made comments jokingly suggesting they once thought we were a couple and that they would not feel comfortable with our friendship if they were in his wife's position. This made me quite uncomfortable, but I just laughed off the comments, highlighted the platonic nature of our friendship, and shifted the conversation. I wasn't sure what else I could have said at that moment. I sensed that they were attempting to be humorous, didn't know me well, and their inebriation inhibited their ability to think before speaking, so I dismissed these encounters and tried to forget them. Their comments were inappropriate, but I refused to let them influence my perception of myself and my friendship with him. The next day, my boyfriend brought it up, mentioning how uncomfortable it made him and questioning the friendship. I detailed everything I just explained, but he was upset that he had to be the one to address it first, which I understand. We both found ourselves in a difficult situation, and I wish I had known a better way to navigate it with him. He requested that I refrain from spending time one-on-one with that friend in the future, and since I only see him a few times a year and enjoy seeing his wife as well, it seemed simple enough to agree. Then in January, my boyfriend and I were talking with one of his friends when I mentioned that I occasionally go out for food with another male friend, a 29-year-old, just the 2 of us, and that it is not awkward. My boyfriend's friend reacted in surprise, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. I probably mentioned it awkwardly, so I regret that, but the rest of the interaction felt vaguely sexist, regressive, or reactionary. I'm not sure. This sparked another discussion between my boyfriend and me, where he expressed that he didn't realize I hung out alone with that friend and that he didn't want me to spend time alone with any men from then on. I explained that it wasn't as though I had hidden it from him, I had probably mentioned it previously, and he only seemed to care now due to the inappropriate comments from someone who doesn't know me or my friends. He said he trusted me, but the entire situation still made him feel insecure, which should matter to me. Ultimately, I agreed that I would explicitly inform him if I ever spent time alone with a male friend. This month, I mentioned the possibility of going to the gym with that friend I referenced in January. My boyfriend was not okay with it, even though it would be more convenient for me to go with him occasionally. I don't have a car, and his schedule aligns with mine better than some of my other friends. He clarified that it wasn't that he didn't want me to socialize with men in general, he just had an issue with this specific friend. This made me laugh a little because, while this friend can be somewhat polarizing and annoying, I'm sure I complain about him often, but he genuinely means well and is a good person at heart. He certainly has not been trying to pursue me or anything. I believe my boyfriend does not see him as a threat either, as he is not particularly attractive, and I have made it clear that I would never view him in that way. I thought the only valid criticism my boyfriend could levy against him would be his social awkwardness and tendency to be a bit bothersome. But then he brought up how one of my bad experiences with mushrooms was with this friend, as well as an instance where he offered me mushroom microdose gummies in front of him at a party, and how he smokes marijuana. Here's the thing. Yes, I was alone with him during that bad experience, but nothing untoward happened. We just consumed too much, upset our stomachs, and returned to our respective homes partway through. The mushroom microdose gummies don't really do anything other than provide a mild sense of euphoria, so I'm certain half my friends were on them that evening, and I declined the offer without any issue. Furthermore, all my friends use marijuana, and none of them have ever pressured me to join them, so I don't understand why my boyfriend is singling this particular friend out. He kept saying that this friend was not someone I should associate with, and that he would rather pay for an Uber for me to the gym than think I was getting a ride with him. This led to another significant argument. Additional context. My father was controlling and abusive toward my mother for many years. Although he had always been somewhat controlling, the abuse escalated when it was revealed that she had been having an affair for years. Consequently, I am very sensitive to issues of cheating and controlling behavior. I would prefer to remain single indefinitely rather than have either of those factors influence my relationship in any way. I communicated to my boyfriend that he could not dictate whom I was friends with or whether I hung out with them. I aimed to avoid unintentionally invalidating his feelings, but I asserted that I believed his emotions, while valid, were just emotions, not rational arguments. To compromise, I agreed to avoid spending time alone with this particular friend. As I mentioned, he can be a bit irritating sometimes, so it is not particularly challenging for me. I expressed that I found it unfair and unreasonable that I couldn't get a ride to the gym from this friend, and that I would be somewhat annoyed about it for a while, but I would comply nonetheless to alleviate his insecurity. He was frustrated that I would still be annoyed about it at all, and I told him he needed to move past it, and that while he could control my actions, he could not control my feelings. We didn't truly resolve the argument, but a day or two later, I discovered that I would find myself alone with this friend again this weekend, and there was no way to avoid it. I informed my boyfriend and asked for his wishes on how to handle it. He eventually understood that this situation was genuinely beyond my control, but it prolonged the argument because he wondered how this keeps happening repeatedly. I told him he would have to adjust to it. Such situations would arise occasionally regardless, and in order to respect his boundaries, we would need to have discussions about it each time. Currently, it feels like a stalemate, where I refuse to concede that he is correct, even if I follow his requests, and he will not let it go until I appear to comprehend his perspective. However, I feel like I will never grasp his viewpoint, as his understanding of the situation is completely inaccurate, and the solution, while mostly harmless, still feels controlling at its core. He seems to want to have it both ways, to control me while feeling as if he is not being controlling. I recognize that boundaries are essential in relationships, and compromising is a part of that. He continuously claims that he would stop communicating with any woman I disliked if the roles were reversed, but it doesn't seem to be an appropriate comparison. It is his choice to abstain from drinking, avoid going out with friends on weekends, or refrain from having close friendships with straight women. I believe that if he engaged in those activities, I would not have an issue with it. Unless there was a valid reason for a trust concern, I would never aim to control any aspect of his life. I do want to note that he has not been unkind at all during this argument or ceased communicating with me for extended periods. He genuinely seeks to resolve this so he no longer feels insecure and that we are both content. It is possible that I am being emotionally distant about the entire situation, which is why I seek feedback. I simply do not believe that deceiving him and pretending I am entirely content with these alterations would promote a healthier dynamic. Unless we find a way to exile that friend he dislikes to another continent, these types of situations will inevitably arise from time to time. Furthermore, concerning the drinking and drug issues, it is not that he quit drinking due to alcoholism or anything. He simply no longer finds pleasure in it and aspires to be more disciplined in general, I think. My friends are not deadbeat stoners. We all have solid jobs, and they engage in recreational marijuana use occasionally and do mushrooms maybe once a year. They were stoners in college, but I don't think anyone is intensely consuming substances at this stage in life. Thank you for allowing me to vent, Reddit, and if anyone has read this far, am I being unreasonable regarding this entire situation? Clearly, I do not feel comfortable discussing this with any of my friends, so I am uncertain if my perspective is skewed. How can we resolve this conflict? Story 2. Am I, 22M, the problem, or is my relationship with my long-distance GF, 22F, unhealthy? I have a long-distance girlfriend from another country, and we've been together almost 2 years. The challenge is that I am uncertain about many things since she is my first relationship, while hers is her second, which was not positive. Her ex was abusive and unfaithful. When we began our relationship, we agreed that I would not have female friends and she would not have male friends because that's what we both believe. During the first year of our relationship, everything was smooth. We were deeply in love and spent all our free time on calls and online games. We have a corny partnership, filled with affection, and we exchanged sweet I love yous and good morning and good night messages regularly. However, as time passed, we began to argue more frequently, and she became increasingly clear about her expectations for me in the relationship. Over time, she stated that I cannot communicate with females unless it is for professional purposes. For instance, if we are at a restaurant, she is the one who converses with the waitress. If I go for a blood test, I must request a male doctor, and I cannot shake hands with a woman. There was a situation when I was grocery shopping and talked briefly with a woman in her 40s who commented on my protein shake. I smiled politely out of habit, and my girlfriend interpreted that as flirting. When we watch Instagram reels together similar to TikTok, but we can watch them simultaneously, she often gets upset. Sometimes, we see comedic reels featuring girls who are not dressed inappropriately. I cover my eyes if they are. But she still gets furious and raises her voice, asking why I am looking at those girls. Recently, I sent a happy birthday message to an old female friend without any ulterior motives, but when my girlfriend discovered it while checking my phone, it escalated into our worst argument in 2 years. She considered it cheating because I hadn't communicated that I was messaging her. Additionally, I occasionally play games with my friends on Discord. I had a server that included people I didn't know, as my friends had added them. One of my best friend's girlfriend was there along with a random girl who rarely participated in calls. But because I had not included my girlfriend, and there were 2 girls in the server, she insisted I delete the server or leave. So I chose to leave it for my best friend to retain ownership. My girlfriend avoids talking to males, except when absolutely necessary in university or work situations, but it makes me anxious about having any ordinary interactions, like with a doctor or shopkeeper. She is quite possessive and sensitive. For instance, if I speak to her normally because I am tired or not feeling particularly affectionate or chatty, she becomes upset. When I mention that I need some time alone, she felt hurt, suspecting I no longer loved her. Occasionally, she annoys me, but I consistently reassure her that this is far from the truth. Once, after a bad day, she tried to cheer me up all morning. I went to the gym and called her afterward. When she asked how I felt, I mentioned that I felt good after enjoying some quiet time, and she felt hurt, assuming that my desire for solitude meant that she bothers me. Furthermore, she often desires more from me than I can provide, especially since we do not live together yet. She frequently wants me to plan our evenings, even though she has stopped asking for this over time. Sometimes it feels like she asks me provocative questions to incite conflict, such as what I would do if a girl approached me saying I was cute. When I replied that I would say no because I am in a committed relationship, she became angry, thinking I should have been more unkind to guard myself, as if I were leaving an opening for the girl to believe my girlfriend would be none the wiser. I reassured her that I would be rude if something like that ever occurred, but my girlfriend remained unfazed and labeled me as too kind. There have been numerous occasions where she has called me overly nice. When arguments escalate, she sometimes resorts to name-calling such as stupid or deaf, despite my requests for her to stop, as I would never stoop to that level in anger. I've mentioned plans to hang out with friends on Discord, and she reacts negatively because she feels I'm not giving her enough affection. If I say yes to going out with my mother and sister to a movie or for a walk without informing her in advance, she becomes upset because I didn't ask for her permission. While she has previously asked for my permission, she has no friends, and her parents restrict her from going out. Additionally, I entertained a business idea with my best friend as a content creator. She initially agreed, cautioning me about potential dangers, but then contacted me later to accuse me of being ignorant for not acknowledging these threats. She claimed I was irresponsible with money because I could waste funds on equipment. As a result, I no longer socialize with friends, including for birthdays. I've also stopped going out with my mother and sister, which leaves me feeling unhappy and drained, particularly during arguments. I often feel like a bad person, given that my girlfriend is incredibly loving and caring. She does everything to reassure and take care of me. When I tell myself I am too exhausted to be consistently affectionate, I feel like the problem. I find myself saddened by the thought of breaking up, as she is a wonderful person and would be an excellent mother to our future children, yet I feel completely drained. I acknowledge my mistakes. I have never been in a relationship before, and early on, I failed to react when someone wore revealing clothing. I also struggle with expressing emotions and often falter in comforting her when she has a bad day or in avoiding actions that upset her. In recent months, I've failed to plan gifts and outings for us, as I used to because my mental fatigue has been overwhelming. Since I've never been in any other relationships, I fear that every relationship might feel this way. I apologize if this message is lengthy or disorganized. I am doing my best to convey everything concisely, and I appreciate anyone who takes the time to assist me.